What's up, Bitcoin Radio? It's your man, Joe Blackburn. Welcome to the show. It's the Bitcoin Hour here on WBTC, where Bitcoin lives. Today, we're going to talk a little bit more use case and real world application. We have an opportunity to kind of pick the brain here of Mr. Adam Barlam, and he's the CTO of BravoCoin.com, BravoCoin. But we're going to get into that here shortly. I hope everybody's having a great week. I've been really interested watching how people are reacting to the market over this last tumble down to, I think we were at 7,900. I mean, who knows? Maybe it goes down a little bit lower. Maybe it stops. Maybe this is the end. I know this. Nobody knows. I mean, people can guess, but nobody actually knows unless you're the one doing it, and that's market manipulation. So I don't want to hear that. Anyways, but no, I've been really proud and really impressed that people kind of just been like, whatever, the price, it's going back up. Like, it's like almost as if we're finally at the point where people are like, it's just a matter of time. Bitcoin's eventually going to make it. Relax. It's not that big of a deal. But to me, watching the space grow up and just feeling so much pride in the fact that I don't have to like stop people from jumping off the ledge, not to make fun of people who actually are jumping off the ledge, because that's not funny. But the actual idea that people think Bitcoin will never recover, it just seems so much more simple at this point that people recognize it's going to eventually recover, because that's all we've ever seen Bitcoin do outside of that one stretch of a few months where Bitcoin did run up to almost 20,000, I think 19.6, whatever it was. But that's neither here nor there. We're going to talk about what's going on in blockchain. We have another project coming on today. Adam has been somebody who has been part of the crypto coin trader community for some time. He's somebody who I've got a chance to know. I've had several conversations with this guy. He's a really cool dude. Not to mention the fact that he's got a really cool project, and they've got some really great things happening over at BravoCoin. He's going to introduce himself here in a second, and I'm sure he'll be able to touch base on a little bit more detail about what he's been doing and whatnot. But I like to focus on the individual, the person, and what they've accomplished and what were their intentions when accomplishing this. And if you'll look back at some of the projects that have been on the show, what I try to do is find the projects who are doing something without that initial monetary gain. They're not trying to go and raise a bunch of money. They're trying to provide a solution to an issue. And whether it been AdBank, I just had them on, a couple weeks ago. I had Lolly on a previous episode recently. These are projects that are giving. They're giving. And in no way is there a return necessary outside of you have to use a product that you're probably already using anyways to some degree. Now, although BravoCoin isn't exactly the same thing, they have a very unique way of you being able to use the blockchain in your everyday life. And I can't wait for you to hear it. So I'm going to go ahead and bring Adam on now. Here we go, Mr. Adam. What's going on? Welcome to Bitcoin Radio, brother. How are you doing?
Hey, Joe. Doing pretty well. Thanks for having me on. Loving Bitcoin Radio, loving CCT, and I'm really excited to dive down the blockchain rabbit hole with you today.
That's right, man. That's right. Now, me and you, we've gone back a couple of times. We've had several conversations. I've told you I want to get you on, and at some point, I want to put some of my my opportunities to help promote what you're offering to people. And what I love about your project, Adam, is how genuine in nature it is. And we're going to get into a lot of the details here shortly. But before we get into that part, let's talk about you, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Adam Barlam. Who are you? Where are you from? How'd you get into Bitcoin? Let's make it quick.
All right. So originally hail from New York, lived there until I was 17 years old. I've always been into open source and Linux. I started using Linux when I was 12 years old, was a Linux systems administrator, through my high school years working for these .com companies. So that really got me into like the open source community and scene. Sure. I was a big IRCer back in the day, Internet Relay Chat. And then I ended up moving to Arizona to go to ASU. So that was I'm going to reveal my age here. That was in 2000. I'm 36 years old. So I went to ASU for a couple of years, and then actually I started working at Intel sophomore year at ASU, and this was actually kind of interesting. So this was like 2002. I started at Intel literally right after the .com bust. So my first week at Intel was literally like I sign on there. They're like, here's your your options. Here's all your stuff. And they're like, by the way, this is the lowest our stock price has been in the past 7 years.
Wow. Good time to get in.
Yeah, that's basically when I joined. I think Intel was trading at like $12.85 a share. And like a year ago, it was like 120 or something. And then it split down to 60. So, all these people are like, hey, welcome. it sucks. You kind of missed the boat. Everyone that was your age kind of retired in the past 2 years. So, I mean, it was kind of funny. I did storage validation and validated storage chipsets. So we started with SCSI Ultra 160, which is like old school server hard drive technology, and then tested Ultra 360, Serial ATA, and then all the way up, and did that for a number of years. Worked at GoDaddy after that for 3 years. I was a senior storage architect and performance solutions architect. And then kind of dove down into the Bitcoin hole. So I first started learning about Bitcoin in 2011. I remember Bitcoin went from $6 to $36 in like a very quick period of time. And actually, during this time period, I was working for 10-month period at a financial newsletter company, interestingly enough, which you'd think like something like this or Bitcoin, these massive appreciations in price would kind of, get their attention. So I remember one day, I was doing web development for them and IT stuff. And we went into this meeting one day, and actually the division in the website that I was in charge of was the penny stock division. So, penny stocks, just like crypto, is a very volatile, marketplace. And I thought to myself, this is the perfect demographic. People who are interested in penny stocks, they love the volatility. They love, the crazy up and down nature. They should love Bitcoin. And I went into this meeting, Bitcoin had just appreciated 600% from $6 to $36. I said, hey guys, check this out. This is Bitcoin. It's this cryptocurrency. It's internet money. Maybe we should cover it. I think our demographic, our clients may like it.
Perfect.
And I got laughed out of the room. Like, they're like, this is crazy. No one wants to hear about that stuff.
The pink sheets were laughing at Bitcoin.
Yeah, exactly. The pink sheet people were laughing at me. And, I brought it up like 2 other times, like in subsequent meetings. They're like, no, we're not going to cover this, blah, blah, blah. And it's funny because, if they actually started covering Bitcoin and we were talking about it a little bit, they would have bought some, they would have bought the wallet, and they would have checked out the wallets. We would have been invested because we would have been, explaining it and going over the process to the readers of the newsletter. And all those people would probably be retired by now. So unfortunately, I didn't get invested then because they were like, oh, we're not going to cover it. So I never even bothered. I just kind of like monitored it here and there. So that was actually like my first learning about Bitcoin and, seeing this crazy price appreciation. And then, things kind of died down. And then moving forward, I'm at GoDaddy. And one of my friends there who's also an employee, he tells me that he's on Gox and he's trading, and he bought in at like $60 a coin, and, it's at like $200 or something. And I'm like, wow, this is pretty crazy. This is way more than it was last time. I said, you know what? I'm going to buy a little bit. So 2013, I bought like 4 coins at $200 a pop. So it was like $800. I remember it went up to $600, and I was like, 300% out, 300% gain, I'm out. And, that was a fantastic game. It kept going. And, what's interesting is that I talked to my friend who had been in since $60, and I was like, I'm out, $600. I was like, you have a 10x gain. You should get out too. He's like, nope, I'm holding on to it. And I was like, all right, man, do what you got to do. And I thought he was crazy. Smart decision. And he ended up holding on to it. And actually, another funny story, while working at GoDaddy, there was actually an employee there that got fired for mining Bitcoin on tons of our ERP systems. So when I worked at GoDaddy, we had I think we had about 100,000 systems across all of our different data centers. And then obviously...
What a baller, by the way. Cheers to that ex-employee.
At the time, we thought it was the dumbest thing ever. So, I mean, we figured it out that when he was doing this mining, he was doing it across all of our ERP systems. So it was probably...
Was it like slowing down everything?
Yeah, that's actually how someone else found it out. They're like, why are the CPUs getting pegged on, all these ERP systems? They're slow to respond. And then someone started investigating. They see all these Bitcoin mining daemons, running. And then they started investigating that, they come down on this guy. And at the time period, he probably mined about $25,000 of Bitcoin. We ended up figuring out, a bunch of friends who worked there, we were like, okay, let's figure out, what he mined. But at the time period, we were like, you're stupid. You lost. I mean, he was an engineer there. He had a six-figure salary, $100,000 plus salary that he threw away for $25,000 of Bitcoin. And at the time period, we were like, you're stupid. That $25,000 and it's done. But that $25,000 now, if he held on to it, which I actually don't think he did, because I mean, if you're going down that path, if you're going down that path anyway, and you're mining on company hardware, I don't know how financially stable you are in the first. I don't know if he sold it. I'm assuming he did. But if he had not sold it, we were actually figuring out that during the peak, it was worth $6 million.
Yeah, I have no doubts. No, I mean that's a crazy story, and I love that kind of just that rundown memory lane on the way these things were working out. But I really love like what you said about the pink sheet people over there at the penny stocks. I mean, I was personally a penny stock guy before I started taking crypto seriously. So it would have appealed to me. Mm-hmm. In fact, I got in 2013, but unlike you, I got in at the end of 2013 when it ran up to $1,000, right? Okay. And so that's when you said it went up to 600. I'm like, yep, kept going. You know why?
Yeah.
Because I finally thought it was safe enough to buy it, right? So I was buying at the the peak, just like in people in 2017 at $20,000, just about. I was me back in 2013, and guess what I thought as soon as it went down? I'm like, this is a piece of trash. I hate this thing. Back in 2013, there was no information. There were no friends. Like, I wasn't a developer either, so I didn't even know how to get in y'all's little IRC chat rooms and stuff, let alone operate, a mining machine or anything of that. I literally just bought it because I think it might keep going up, right? I look back and I laugh at it, and I'm so thankful that I did, because it still inspired me to buy $5, $10 a month, or $50 a month, whatever I could afford at the end of the month. I would take some and put it in my savings, right? Well, I started splitting that up and putting some in Bitcoin. So I can relate to at least the time period. And although I was on the other side, and I'm glad you got to cash out and have some fun, I was sitting there stuck in a position then for a long time. Fortunately, we both still made it and kept on in this space, regardless of the good or the bad experience. And we're here today. And not only that, we're both doing something with our lives in the space, at least on a relative level. But today's not about me. It's about you, Adam. And the reason why I brought you on this show was because, number one, you've been around for a long time. You've got a lot of experience. You're really engaging. You're really fun. You talk like me, really fast, really excited. And, I've almost been worried about bringing you on, because if you put two Joe Blackburns together, because that's kind of what you are in some ways, and I mean that as a compliment. Obviously, I'm Joe Blackburn. So, in that respect, at least, I feel like, there's going to be a lot said and a lot talked about, and probably in half the time it would take everybody else.
Yeah, well, we're never going to shut up, and we're going to cover half, double the amount of material.
Exactly, right? I hope so, at least. And for those of you who usually hit 1.5x or 2 times the speed on your podcast, so you can catch everything. You're not going to want to do that, because we're going to be talking like Smurfs if you do that. Exactly, you're in luck. You're gonna get it all very quickly. But on a serious note, we'll start with BravoCoin. Your BravoCoin.com, obviously, as your name says here on the video. But you guys have built something that has a lot of what I believe use case for this space, but not for the crypto space, for the tech space, and for people who are actively using reviews, actively using a Yelp or a Travelocity or Travel. What is it called? TripAdvisor. Thank you. The people live off of these reviews these days. They go through, if they're like, where am I trying to figure out to eat? I mean, how many times do you think a day it's decided on, like, if they don't know if they've never ate there before, hey, let's look at the reviews. I want to go to this restaurant. I'm going to go to that restaurant, and you say, oh, I'm going to go to this one because it's got 5 stars instead of 4.5.
It's ingrained in our head.
It's natural. And so, but the problem with that is that there's a lot of maybe misinformation or even some manipulation in those. And anytime somebody can get a leg up and there is a hole or there's a way to manipulate it, people are going to inherently try to rise to the top. It's a competition. It's business. It is shark eating shark, and which one's the bigger shark sometimes, right? Or shark eating the little fish that doesn't know how to protect themselves. But you've got something that's a little bit different. It's based off of a lot more transparency. It's also something that's really relevant. And my favorite thing to say is it's familiar. This is familiar. And in blockchain and familiarity to the person who's never used a crypto coin before, you don't find a lot of that these days, especially right now when everybody's still trying to figure it all out. They're just trying to get something to work, let alone make it useful for the public. Well, I'm going to stop talking and let you kind of have this, but why don't you just overview what BravoCoin is?
Sure. So BravoCoin is pretty much reviews on blockchain. So much like a TripAdvisor or Yelp that you're currently giving away your reviews for free to, we actually reward our users based upon the amount of likes or upvotes they get on the review. So it's a community validation platform. You post a review, someone who is nearby that location on the app, it's all geolocated, would see your review. If it could even be a negative review, as long as it's a worthwhile review, that's informative and beneficial to the community and to the users, you're likely to receive thumbs up on it, just like you receive a thumbs up or on your post on Facebook or on Instagram or any of these platforms. We aim to make BravoCoin as easy to use as possible, and like you said, very, very familiar, like other social media platforms that currently exist.
For sure. No, and I mean, you're kind of the Yelp of the blockchain, and I know that that's not something you necessarily compare yourself to, because you guys are your own entity, but that's the easiest comparison to make. And I like what I've seen so far. And Adam, you presented this project to me a year ago, and just to show it to me. One night on my way down to Miami for the North American Bitcoin Conference, I was bored. Ben Barlow sitting in the seat next to me. We're driving 16 hours down to Miami because our flights were all messed up. I convinced Ben to miss his flight with me, and we drove down there, and Ben falls asleep. So I'm like, I'm bored. Like, who wants to go live and just talk about this? And sure enough, Adam raises his hand. He's like, I'll do it with you. We get on. We had a great conversation. I don't even think we talked about BravoCoin outside of maybe just like giving you some credibility about who you were. But what I love about how you handle yourself and how you present what you guys are doing is, I know that you already know this, but your product speaks for itself. All you got to do is be able to see it. And now you're in the mode now where you are presenting this. And I mean, I called you today because I had a empty spot because I had somebody who backed off the interview that was supposed to happen today. And I was like, I've been meaning to have Adam on anyways. And you immediately like, I got this. Let's do it right now. Obviously that's kind of a joke, but you're already ready because you believe and you know so much about your product. You don't have to prepare. We didn't even talk about a question we were going to ask. We literally hopped on, and it's so authentic and it's so you. I mean, that's what makes this so interesting to me, is because I can see you breathe, you live it, you eat it, you sleep it. It's all you right now. So as BravoCoin goes, like, how did you even come up with the idea for this? Like, what made it so important to you?
I'll go into a little bit of a background. So initially, I started developing BravoCoin, which was actually called Reseña when we first started, which is Spanish for review. So I had this business idea with my business partner in mid 2016. I mean, blockchain was around, but it wasn't really, it hadn't gained a lot of steam, or we hadn't gotten through the bull run yet. And we were actually started off as a centralized review platform that targeted Spanish-speaking countries. So our main goal at first was to go after Mexico and Spain, because Yelp and TripAdvisor didn't really do a very good job there. So we thought there was an opportunity to jump into those markets. And then, Yelp in Spanish is Yelp, which doesn't really mean anything. So their marketing was very, very poor in those areas. And then we were about 5 months into it. And one day I called my business partner and I said, we're changing the back end. She's like, what do you mean we're changing the back end? I said, let me explain to you blockchain. And she's like, what's blockchain? And I said, we're moving all this over to blockchain. And this is going to allow us to do a couple of different things. It's going to allow us to have authentic, validated reviews, and it's going to allow us to do revenue sharing. And basically, users are going to be able to get paid for their input, which previously they couldn't do. And as soon as I said that, the revenue sharing part, where users can actually earn something, she was in. She's like, sounds great. Absolutely. Let's do it. And right then and there, we scrapped the entire backend. It was like a SQL, centralized backend. And I started implementing the Bravo backend, which is actually a fork of Steemit. So we've modified and customized and catered heavily to a mobile review platform from the Steam code. So that's actually how BravoCoin was first started. And the reason why we wanted to target Yelp and these types of companies is that I had a negative experience with Yelp in the past. So for a few years, I ran a software as a service business. And I used to get 99% of my traffic would come from Google. I did SEO in the past. I was very good with digital marketing. I would have a lot of traffic that would come in from Google. But I also had a Yelp profile, just so that everyone leaves reviews nowadays. You have to have a Yelp profile. You have to have some reviews, about your business or your company. So I had the regular Yelp profile. It was a free profile, didn't pay for it. But Yelp would continuously call me and email me and ask me if I wanted to market with them. And, I would tell them, no, I'm not interested. And then a couple of days later, they, say, hey, here's some stats. Are you sure you don't want to, get involved with our sponsored ads or this or that or the other thing? No, I'm not interested. And finally, they did this for about 3 weeks straight, consistently, almost to the point of harassment. Sure. And I sent an email. I said, leave me alone. I'm not signing up for your services. I don't need it. I don't need it. I'm very happy with what we have. And literally within 48 hours, I had 5 stars out of 5 stars and about 18 reviews. Literally within 48 hours, I had 3 1-star reviews pop up on my feed. And they weren't customers of mine. They had never worked with me before. And this type of behavior from Yelp and Yelp representatives has been documented time and time again.
Absolutely. Yep.
So I felt
almost essentially extortion to an extent, right? That's exactly might even be the definition of extortion.
I call it digital extortion. And you know what? There's a Harvard Business School study that came out a few years ago, and they said every 1 star that you lose on your Yelp profile ranking results in an 11% reduction in overall business revenue, which is crazy if you think about it. Yeah, 1 star can reduce your entire revenue structure by 11%, and actually some studies even peg it as high as 15%. And just like you were saying, when you're looking for a place to go, you're like, oh, I'm looking for the 5-star place. I'm looking for whatever. When I'm looking for a place to go, whether it's a restaurant or whether I'm ordering something on Amazon, reviews are everywhere. Whatever that review may be, I'm very hesitant to try a product or go to a restaurant if it's less than 4 stars. So you can see how powerful them just knocking me down 1 star, what that can actually do to your overall business. And the way that they can manipulate and take advantages of businesses is very unfair. And I equate it to pretty much digital extortion. And it's almost like, I tell this story before. My dad grew up in Bensonhurst, New York, which is a heavily influenced organized crime area, is I guess how I'll put it. So he used to work for this luncheonette there. And, every night, Frankie would come by. He was the local security service. And he would put in a little, business card saying, with a timestamp saying, hey, your business was checked by Frankie at this time and this date, and everything looked okay. So if you were a new business and you opened up, in this sector, first day, Frankie and his, buddies would come over and say, hey, we offer, these types of security services. We'll check on your business at nighttime. We'll make sure everything looks safe. Nothing happens. It's X amount of dollars per month. And if you said no, that next morning you come in and there'd be a brick through your window.
Absolutely.
And then Frankie would show up later in the day and you'd say, what happened? That's unfortunate. You had a brick come through your window. Had we been there at nighttime, checking in the security and verifying that your business was okay, that wouldn't have happened. So I feel
next time it doesn't catch on fire.
Yeah, exactly. Or the brick doesn't hit you in the head. So, I almost feel like those are the types of tactics that Yelp employs, except to like a modern digital age.
Yeah, and obviously, I don't have any personal beef with Yelp, so I don't want to sit here and say that they do everything wrong. I've not had every experience that you've had or other people, but I can say that it's a very consistent story that's been told about something very similar to what you said. Now, because obviously you've had enough of this. Because not only did you hold this, you still remember the story and you tell people you went out and created a competitor.
Oh, yeah. I'm like, yeah, exactly. Like this isn't going to happen anymore. This isn't going to fly. And that's why blockchain is so amazing, because blockchain, a scenario like this is ripe for blockchain. So for instance, Yelp is notorious for filtering and changing around the orders of reviews or removing reviews completely. And what's interesting is that they were actually taken to court for this. And it went all the way up to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court ruled that what they were doing is legal. It may not, this is verbatim what they said. They said, what Yelp is doing is legal. It may not be moral or ethical, but it's legal. And when you operate a business and, those are your guidelines, like I can be immoral and unethical, but what I'm doing isn't illegal, so I can continue to do it. That's just a crappy attitude to have as a business, in my opinion.
And it is. And, you could pick apart, and this is not uncommon to a lot of different entities within the business or in the money-making industry, right? Mm-hmm. People take advantage of these loopholes, or they take advantage of the lack of laws. And then, again, that's why new laws are created. But in the circumstances that they are not protected, it brings up innovation, and that's
Correct.
The blockchain steps in. So how does the actual blockchain itself fit into this? And is it really as good of a use case as, obviously, your bias? You're a co-founder of this project, but is this truly something that's groundbreaking almost in this industry?
Sure. I think it is, and I'll go over a couple of reasons why I believe so. So like we talked about, one of the main issues of traditional and centralized review platforms is manipulation and, the centralization aspect, and these companies that are running it, strong arming these businesses, whether they want to get them to market with them, whether they want them to, do other initiatives with them. So by putting this, Yelp clearly states that they admit it, that they reorder and refilter reviews and change around stuff in the review profiles. And that's just ripe manipulation.
And I guess they justify it by saying, I'm a private company, I can do this if I want.
Exactly. Hey, it may not be ethical, it may not be, moral, but whatever, it's not illegal, so I'm going to continue to do it.
I don't actually know if they're private or public.
They're public. Yelp is a publicly traded company. They're about a $3 billion market cap, roughly.
Actually, and I probably should have known that. But that does change things, though, and I'm surprised that that's not illegal in that case then.
So, Yelp is all about, when you're a publicly traded company, your main goal is to appease shareholders. And if you can appease shareholders by generating additional profits and strong arming, and you have to strong arm businesses to do it, but it's increasing, your bottom line, shareholders are going to turn the blind eye and look the other way until it negatively affects you.
Exactly, because they're getting their profits going up.
Exactly. So until it's negatively affects them to the standpoint where hey, it's such a black eye that people are leaving Yelp in droves, they're not going to stop these types of practices, because they're driven by shareholder value. And whatever makes the shareholders more money, that's what they're going to do, unfortunately.
Sure. And now, because of the way that Yelp has operated, and as we just discussed, you found a reason to create a competitor to an extent, because to me, you are the only Yelp of the blockchain, as far as I'm concerned. There might be another project, but for what I know about you, Adam, this is the only one that I've had any dealings with. But where does the blockchain change this? I mean, obviously the decentralized aspect, but how does that actually work? Like, what is it that makes it different?
Sure. So one of the key features is that blockchain is immutable and you can't delete or modify or edit it. So one of the issues, like we go back to our Yelp example, is that either Yelp's removing reviews or they're modifying the order or filtering things around, or users themselves will be contacted by a business afterwards, and the business will say, hey, I'll give you X, Y, and Z, change your review from 1 star to 5 star, and then they go and update it. On blockchain, that's impossible. Once your review is written to the blockchain, it's immutable. It's permanent. It can't be removed. We can't edit it. We can't change it. We can hinge around the filtering. So that's one main thing that we solved, is that reviews are very transparent now. They're stored on the blockchain. They're there permanently. There's not any funny business of manipulation that's going on. So that's aspect number one. Aspect number two that we've solved is proof of location. So a huge issue with all review platforms, on Amazon, on Yelp, are fake reviews. I mean, fake reviews are rampant. And when you realize the effect that, reviews have on sales, it's understandable why, whenever there's a monetary incentive involved with any business, there's going to be people who are going to try to manipulate and game the system. And basically what blockchain enables us to do is to catch those people who are trying to game the system, and offer mitigating options. So
at least like the highlight that this is what's going on, I mean, at minimum, show that there might be something that might be a little bit fishy.
Absolutely. So by putting everything on blockchain, it's 100% transparent. You can see it in the app, you can see it on the Block Explorer, but then we've included another component as well, which is this proof of location piece. So there's huge issues in Yelp and all these other review spaces where a coffee shop owner on one side of the town leaves a crappy review for the coffee shop owner on the other side of the town, and he's never, ever been to that location. Or he has employees that do it too. And, everyone goes through and they try to knock down these rankings because they know how powerful reviews are. We now have a proof of location device that interfaces with the blockchain. It interfaces with our application, and it's physically present at the place of business to prove a user is where they say they are. So now basically we can eliminate these fake reviews unless someone is actually going to the physical location, and checking it or writing a review. Now, granted, if there's a will, there's a way. There's always going to be some way to get around things, but you can put in as much protection as possible to make it extremely difficult for people to game these systems.
The more effort that is required, the less likely you're going to get the casual hater or the casual whatever it might be. Oh, I got to actually go over there. Sorry, bro, you're on your own, man.
And walk into the business, and be around the register where this beacon is, emitting the signal. You're a lot less likely to do that, especially if you're doing it for a fraudulent intent.
Exactly. And you get to see like the family or the owner, and he's in there busting his butt, wiping his brow with the washcloth. Man, he's been out there working all summer. It's hot, and all of a sudden I feel bad. I'm not going to leave this guy back.
Exactly. And you know what? And if that user did leave a review, and they went through the process and they were verified from our proof of location device, the owner would probably know right away. They'd be like, wait a second, that person was the person who just came in, and I
remember
exactly
that
they didn't order anything, or they did order anything. They were
some accountability.
Exactly. So it gives accountability. We have proof of location, that proves you are where you say you are. I mean, that's a big issue in the travel industry with hotels, competing hotels, and saying, one hotel's good and one hotel's bad when the user hasn't even been there. So there's all these scenarios where reviews are manipulated because there's a monetary incentive in order to capitalize on that. And that's the two main areas that we focus on are fake reviews, and manipulation of reviews.
And let me tell you, like when it comes to reviews, just to add on to your point there, Adam, is although I'm not a big Yelp guy, I do use Hotel Tonight, and I do use like the Travelocities and the other ones that we mentioned. And to me, when I stay to a hotel, although like you're just going there to sleep, right? I mean, it's different if you're going to a resort and you're staying there for 6 days. But if I just need a hotel for a night, I am so picky. It's like, what the heck am I even worried about? Like, I mean, what's the difference between this 4-star and this 5-star besides the price? I mean, and what I try to do is I try to go find the nicest, cheapest 5-star, or not 5-star hotel, but a hotel that has a 5-star review on average or close enough to it. And I mean, they typically can charge a little bit more, but like Hotel Tonight, like I'll get on there and, the reviews that I see on different, channels, including Hotel Tonight, I'm really interested in how, like where I'm going to stay at. So I take that so seriously. I mean, I won't even look at a hotel if it's got under 4 stars. And I mean, even knowing that it's probably manipulated, I don't care.
It doesn't matter. It's ingrained in your head.
It's not my fault. I can blame them.
We've been trained for, since the advent of the review system that came out, which was like probably like Yahoo auctions started or eBay auctions, where we look at that instantly now. And there's a lot of people like
Sure.
like for
You're
you,
right though about eBay. That's a
oh
great
yeah,
point. I hadn't even connected that, but they probably did make it important.
I would say like Yahoo auctions was like the first auction site. And I remember they had reviews for sellers, and then eBay kind of took that, that same idea and implemented it.
Yahoo was before my time when I actually cared.
I'm showing my age again.
I'm only 34. Like we would have gone to college together. So
that's true. I'm only 2 years older than you.
I was not on the computer as much,
Gotcha. That's why I'm a little more white and pasty compared to you, because I've had this. I haven't seen the sun in many years.
I'm getting close though. I mean, now that I've been podcasting, it's a lot. Anyways, not to interrupt you, keep going.
So yeah, so I mean, like there's a huge opportunity for where these platforms are being manipulated, and like you were saying again, you may not necessarily write reviews yourself, or you're not into really writing reviews, but everyone reads reviews regardless. Like you said, for a hotel, if I'm going on Amazon and I'm buying like a toaster, I'm going through like 50 different toasters reading reviews. Like, it's crazy to think about for something that's just toasting my bagel, that I'm that concerned that I want to get the best product possible. But that now that you have the ability to do it's like additional research. Now you have the ability to do this type of research. You want to make the best decision and get the best bang for your buck.
I mean, I can't tell you, and I mean, obviously we don't need to get too lost on this, but this is a really interesting topic to me because it shows the psyche of the actual, like the way that we all operate these days. And, I mean, you don't have the ability to go in and talk to the storekeeper anymore. Like we don't buy things that way. I mean, yes, occasionally that happens. My toaster went out. I got to go to Walmart, but you're not, number one, you're going to Walmart and there's not a shopkeeper.
Correct.
There might be one cashier for 55 lanes that doesn't care about your question.
They have no clue about your toaster.
Right. So we're just now doing the online digital version of no accountability for selling a product through Amazon. I mean, this has been popular for at least 10, 15 years at this point. But I look at, the reviews, and that is all our interaction we have with the accountability to that product, to whoever's selling it. And it's not even the manufacturer that's typically getting the crap. It's the person who's selling it, like Amazon or whatever it might be. But Amazon's figured out a great way to still offer alternatives. And I just really appreciate the way, I mean, not just Amazon, a lot of different people, but I appreciate the way that at least it gives me some insight. But on what the notes that you were just talking about, and again, we'll move on from this, but what I think is so interesting is that I have not bought more things in my life than I have bought things because of reviews. I mean, sometimes I actually need something, and I'm so torn about literally buying a product because this one person plugged it in and immediately was electrocuted, which that's an extreme. That didn't actually happen, and I would not laugh about that if it was actually true. But truly, like, you see these most extreme reviews, and it's probably literally the competitor to this. And it's so interesting. And I mean, then you get lost reading all the reviews. And you've already decided not to buy this product, but now you're just like,
I would just want to go through all the 1 stars. What are people saying that's bad about it?
I'm clicking on the 1 stars, and I want to read from the bottom to the top. And by the time I get to the end of one, it's like over with. And to me, that if I could, I mean, obviously you guys have already developed this and I can't really influence, but if you could just not sort by stars, I think that would require people to read people's good and bad reviews. I just think it would be like a more authentic, especially what if your product's gotten better? And so all the more recent reviews have been tremendously, incredible.
So that's another thing, going back to like the psyche, and what's interesting with people leaving reviews is that most people are more inclined to leave a review if they're unhappy than if they're happy, which kind of sucks. So, when you see negative reviews, when you see lots and lots of negative reviews, that's generally a very bad sign. But if you see no negative reviews and, just a couple of, positive reviews sprinkled in, that's generally a pretty good sign, because, people normally vent their hate and their frustration, and that's like what fires them up. And they're like, I'll screw this product. I'm going to write this scathing review about them and post it online. And that's generally, what you see. And, granted, that's a valid and review for a product or, for what's going on, but we want people to not only leave those types of reviews, but we need positive reviews as well, to lift these companies up.
Well, if there was only an incentive to leave a review,
I know. I wish somebody would come
up with that. Yeah. So that's a great lead in, by the way. I don't know if you strategized that or not, but it was perfect. And hopefully I did a good job taking that.
That was beautiful.
Getting into it. So good chemistry we have here, Adam. I think that you opened that up brilliantly. But that to that point is, there hasn't been a lot of incentive to hear the good. And generically speaking, most people have a unbiased experience. Like, we expect it to be pleasant, as a norm. Like, I just don't need
just
to
like
have
neutral.
any experience.
Exactly.
Like, just do what you say, that I walk in, I order food, it doesn't take an hour, and it doesn't, come out like undercooked or raw
or cold or something.
overcooked.
Yeah.
Exactly. Just perform, and unless something doesn't live up to those expectations, again, as we've all discussed, that's typically what leads to man, F this place. I'm not coming back. This is a joke. I hope everybody knows this place isn't just having a bad day. They're horrible just in general. Like, screw these people. Leaving a bad review is a big deal. Now, the counter to that is to incentivize in some capacity. And I want to state this, and I didn't state this at the beginning. I typically do this. I don't own BravoCoin. I'm not somebody who's invested into BravoCoin. I'm a friend of Adam's. I will admit that we have a relationship to some degree, but I wouldn't call us best friends or even really that good of friends. We just know each other. You've been part of CCT for a long time. We've communicated. You wanted to show me about BravoCoin when you first decided that this was actually going to happen. And we're sitting here, and you guys did not raise money in the traditional ICO sense. You literally only get BravoCoin through participating with BravoCoin. Is that correct?
Correct. Yep. We did an ICO, no private placement. This was 100% bootstrap between my business partner and I. And like you said, there's no capital to get started. You literally just download the app, you start leaving reviews, and if you leave valid reviews and good worthwhile reviews, people are going to upvote, and then you're going to start earning. And that's basically the entire concept of it. It's about encouraging people and offering incentives for people to leave reviews who previously weren't interested in leaving reviews. Sure. So we have users that message me periodically, and they say, I've never used Yelp before. I use Yelp and I use TripAdvisor. I read reviews. I've never written a review before. And then we have all these users who say, now I'm actually writing reviews because I have an incentive to do so, whereas before, I couldn't be bothered. So I think that's a huge motivational factor, for people they're leaving reviews for these platforms already for free. You have Amazon, that's a $3 billion company that has literally crafted their entire business model and structure from obtaining free data and free information from its users. And Goldman Sachs recently said that data is more valuable than oil. Data is the new oil. It's very, very powerful and very, very valuable. And why are we giving it away to these behemoth corporations that are abusing our data and our privacy when we could be and not getting rewarded for it, when we can be rewarded and provided with incentives to do so?
Sure. And it's another great point. And to not veer off too far, but I don't mind some companies having my data, right? I don't mind, especially if I believe that it's securely held. It's not going to be exploited. It's not going to be sold out. I don't mind my data being used to benefit or even make my life easier either. And oftentimes, I think many of us probably have experienced this, whether it's on Amazon or something else. You get on your phone and you're just talking to your buddy about, hey, I need some new gloves. It's cold outside.
Yep.
I'm not talking about texting.
Sponsored ad comes up.
Exactly. I'm not talking about texting something. I'm not talking about going and searching in Amazon and leaving some cookies for them to remember. I'm literally talking about having a actual conversation with no digital intent, right? And then it shows up. And that's really crazy. However, I'm not usually that mad about it. Why? Because I feel like it's relatively harmless. But that's not the case. We don't actually know how far, or especially 5, 6, 7 years ago, before this stuff was actually even like you need to protect people's data outside of your password, right? That's all we ever thought was protecting your data.
Sure.
Hey, change your password every 8 years, whatever it might be, Well, now, we're starting to wake up to the real threat that your digital privacy now poses on your own personal life. I mean, you can ruin somebody.
Oh, yeah.
And, this is only getting worse. And so the accountability and really the transparency of the blockchain may be our only hope to fix this immediately. Now, what BravoCoin is doing is just, in my opinion, and obviously I see this from a mass adoption, from a use case, and from a real world application aspect, and how I'm going to tie that into what I just said is that we've got to have examples of things that traditionally can be manipulated and taken advantage of. And for the most part, the regular public doesn't care. They don't care. They're going to assume that the overwhelming majority is going to at least take away from that 1% that they believe probably exists that are fake reviews. All right. I mean, that's just my personal
or if it's not directly affecting them.
Sure, exactly. Or if they've had a relatively decent experience in some capacity at that place either. But, when we see something work that traditionally has had problems, even though it may not get the fanfare and the parade that it probably actually deserves, it sets the precedent for the next step for somebody else to take this more seriously. So I believe what BravoCoin's doing is not only are they providing this other opportunity, and we're going to get into your adoption and your marketing strategy and all this, and we'll do that soon, but you're also giving inspiration to maybe the next whatever, right? I mean, I don't want to put anything out there, but whether it be the next Uber that's helping you make sure, like this act of reviewing and leaving accountable stars and permanent. So it's not so, what's the word? Like lackadaisical. Like, right now people leave reviews just because when they have a bad experience, but it could be like they put pickles on my burger and I didn't ask for them. Some people are that finicky and that, I mean, instead of just saying, hey, I got pickles on my burger, they replaced my burger and it was fine after that.
That's a good experience.
I mean, like that should be at least, right? But people don't even give people the benefit of the doubt anymore. They're just like, F this place, let's go somewhere else. Like, I'm going to leave a better review. And I'm just saying, if we can change the way that we have to somehow figure out a way to make this more accountable. This is a perfect start. And I can only imagine what this can scale to. So let me ask you this, Adam. First off, you kind of given some responses that you've gotten, but what's the overall response back from the community that's using it? And obviously, you need more than just crypto users. You need the actual user to use this to make sense. And the familiarization that they might have with other apps makes it easy, but are they doing this? So, I know that's a two-part question. Feel free to answer as you want.
So in regards to non-crypto based users adopting the platform, it actually has started to happen. And about 35% of our users have actually never used crypto before and never been on any sort of blockchain based platform. And the reason for that is that I targeted a lot of people in terms of like friends that I know here locally and friends of friends who aren't into technology or aren't into crypto to kind of like beta test this to see, is this something that they could pick up and utilize? And it's been overwhelmingly positive experience where, users are using the platform. Blockchain stuff is going on in the background, but they don't need to know that. So, I mean, I think that's one of the huge issues with the blockchain space and crypto space today is that these applications are way too complex to use. I mean, even for a technologically advanced user, they still have issues. I mean, me, myself, I've had problems before where I forgot to back up a key or I did something stupid and I lost coins or I lost an NFT or something like that.
And so you've been doing this for forever.
Oh, yeah. If I'm making these mistakes, you could almost guarantee that someone who has never dealt with this before, that's the first mistake they're going to make. So I think that's a huge issue is that, the UI, the UX in this space is very, very, very lacking. And, if you go to a number of these blockchain conferences, that's something that a lot of speakers actually harp on is that, this stuff is too complex. I'm never going to be able to teach my dad how to use MetaMask, and authenticate on a site and send up there.
He doesn't want to know.
He doesn't want to know it, and that's a lost cause. I wouldn't even attempt to explain it. But my dad is actually on BravoCoin because he uses Yelp. He's used Yelp before. He's on Facebook. He knows how to use Instagram. And as long as you create, an experience and an interface that's very familiar to what people are used to, it's an easy segue to get them transitioned over. It's like, when, MySpace first came out and then Facebook came out, people are like, well, I know how to use Facebook because, I know it's the same as MySpace. It's just a slightly, it's same concept, maybe a slightly updated interface, but everything's very, very similar, and that's why, like people who use Instagram knew how to use Snapchat and so on and so forth. So the main problem that I foresee is that, that so much stuff is just way too complex to use in this industry. And if we really truly want mass adoption, we need these types of easy to use, forward facing user applications that can be built on blockchain, but the user doesn't have to know that. You just need to get them interfacing and working with it. And, we've mentioned this before. I was talking about this with you earlier, is that once you get into the crypto ecosystem, it's very easy to go further down that rabbit hole. So, you get some Bitcoin or you get some BravoCoin, and then you could trade that for Ethereum or you trade that, for Litecoin, and then you're into Monero. And, once you have one coin, it's very easy to exchange for another. And what we've started to see with a lot of our novice users is that they're starting to ask these types of questions now, like, hey, I earned X amount of BravoCoin. How do I get this? How do I get Bitcoin from this? Or, I've heard about this Ethereum platform. How does that work? And, it's those types of questions that we want them to be asking so that they're intertwined in the ecosystem and learning about that. And that's just how we drive, mass adoption and get more people, into the space.
Now, and you just really explained that well, and I appreciate that, Adam. And I really am proud of the concept. And, I think about, the people who are benefiting from Yelp on the actual business side. We're not talking about the users. Users are using Yelp because it's there.
Sure.
And Yelp has a stranglehold on the market, I would say, on a pretty
Oh, yeah, definitely.
basis. And that's not changing anytime soon. I mean, and of course, that's no disrespect to BravoCoin. I mean, that's literally the way that
Yeah,
things
that's
are. I
just
mean,
you're dealing with
yeah.
the 800-pound gorillas. That's just
And
the
even
facts.
exactly, even if BravoCoin does, come in there and make a huge mark, I mean, Yelp's still going to exist.
Hmm.
But what I see is there's a lot of businesses that have probably had some unfair experiences, just similar to what you said. And you're not the only person who's been harassed by Yelp on a hey, use us, pay. People remember those things. So all
Hmm.
you really have to do is I mean, this is just not advice, this is just my thought, is go find those businesses that are pissed off at Yelp and be like,
Hmm.
yo, I'm offering an alternative and almost really a fresh slate, like, and plus, what the truth is the truth. You should encourage all of your patrons, to come in and use this and leave a review on BravoCoin. I feel
Hmm.
like they are going to side with you. Just simply, they don't care even if it's the exact same thing. They just
Yeah,
hate
they
Yelp.
just hate Yelp, and that's a big thing in this industry. I mean, we've now started to go and talk to restaurant owners and stuff, and we've started to give them our proof of location devices,
Absolutely.
and that's a reoccurring theme
Man,
that
they gotta
I
love that. They have to absolutely love that
oh
proof of location.
they think it's pretty cool because it's like Pokemon Go and social gamification that we've added to like review
For
systems.
sure.
So it's definitely cool and it definitely drives user engagement. And I come and I know you are too. I can see your Halo video games in the background. I come from the gaming era. You're from the gaming era. That's what we grew up on. We grew up on Xbox,
Thank you for
on
noticing that, by the
Nintendo.
way.
I was looking at it in the corner. I was like, oh, he's got a nice little Halo box going on over there.
It's
So from his
actually
gaming.
two figures to
Oh, okay.
box
Yeah, I
toys.
thought it was actually the game box at first, but now I see it actually is the figure. Case in point, we're gamers. That's a lot of people that are in our generation or generations after us grew up on video games. They grew up on this gamification, engagement and loyalty types of platforms. And it's crazy if you start to read about like game theory and like how it affects like the psyche and the mind and how it's actually like a dopamine release when you're playing Xbox and you get an achievement and it pops up on the
Oh
screen
man,
and it's
yeah.
like you got 15 points for beating this boss. It's crazy that your mind's, it's a reward system and your brain goes, oh, wow, that's pretty cool.
Yep.
So I think implementing this same type of functionality in these types of platforms is how you start to draw in, our generation and into this. I call it social gamification.
Well said. And obviously, this has been really thought through. You're a high level thinker, Adam. You've done nothing but prove yourself over and over in this. And you guys have kind of tested, during. I mean, like I think if I remember correctly, the first time we actually had a conversation about all this, I think it was like during like the worst part of the market, and
Yeah.
you weren't even phased, right? This is like middle early 2018. I mean, everything's in the shitter. Excuse my language. But long story short, it wasn't even like you were just excited. You're like, dude, look, this is what I'm doing. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
man, bro, don't you know like everything's failing right now? Like, what are you thinking?
That's how you separate the true blockchain believers from the people who are just in it for money grabs or exit scams, or
Agreed.
they're not really they don't care about furthering the technology, about furthering mass adoption. The people who are
Exactly
building
right.
stuff during crypto winter, those are the people to focus on
Yep.
because during the worst downturn ever, these people had their heads down, focusing, building stuff because they feel that they can embrace this technology and achieve adoption and make it grow even further.
For sure. Hey, by the way, are you playing in the WCC? I guess
Poker
it's actually
tournament?
yeah, the Fortnite tournament.
Oh, no, no, no. I'm all right at Fortnite. I haven't played in a while. I probably get my ass kicked. I saw that you're going to be in
You
it.
would. Yep. Because I would kick your ass. So
Yeah,
I don't blame you for
I'm
sitting
sure
on the
you would have.
sidelines.
You know what would be pretty cool though? I think I may throw a beacon over there, so that people, to encourage people to go over there and they can check in, earn some Bravo while they're watching Fortnite.
Hey, that's a good idea. And I guess we'll kind of turn this into. I'm going to be at WCC. We're less than a month away from it, and at this point, really, we're like 3.5 weeks away at this
Yeah, it's coming up
right
soon.
now. And I'm really excited about it. I'm really pumped up. I mean, I went to NABTC in January. I did go to Consensus back in May, but it's been because Bitcoin Radio has taken so much of my time. I've actually missed some of the European. I was really planning on making one of the European conferences in Malta, and then I was going to try to make one in Korea, which is
Hmm.
actually I think going on right now or was last week maybe. Anyways, and I haven't been able to do that, but I'm really looking forward to the World Crypto Conference and the Litecoin Summit because there's so much genuine, like, awesomeness that's coming around. It's like the community, it feels like it did when we were all first starting to go to these conferences and I was starting to meet these people for the first time. And now we've become really good friends. And now everybody's kind of just showing up there. And I didn't even know you were going. it doesn't surprise me, but I mean, it's so close, I guess, close to home for you. But
Yeah, it's only about 4.5 hour drive for me, so that's not too
and
bad.
I've never got a chance to meet you in person. I've just only spoken to you on the phone and stuff. So I'm excited about seeing this. I'm excited about kind of getting all this, wrapping my head around Adam Barlam and who's a person, because you're a very unique individual. I
Thanks,
actually
man.
think we're not that dissimilar, because I think that how you get so excited and passionate and fired up, like even, and for the audience, like we were talking before we went live, and like I said, I don't really like to script, and I don't really like to have an idea of I have a goal for the actual podcast, and of course we'll hit some touch points, and I'll ask Adam, is there any announcements or anything specific that you want to get to?
Sure.
We'll
No,
talk
no
about those
clear cut
things.
agenda though. It's
But
kind of
yes,
just like,
exactly. Let's
fly
have
by
this
night.
conversation.
Yeah.
And I do make some questions for myself so I can ask and we get to them, but I like it to be very natural and authentic. And you were so excited about just talking about it. I was like, holy shit, that must be what I sound like. Like, I mean, it's amazing. Like, because I just really, really respect how genuinely, how you care so much. It really, it appeals to me. And anybody who talks to you cannot deny that, because what I see with BravoCoin isn't just an opportunity to stick at Yelp. I see people who see why the blockchain needs to matter, and if it didn't matter, or if this was just a way to make money, you would have done it in a much easier way. Because I know
Sure.
this has not been easy.
Sure. I mean, we even built our own blockchain. If we wanted to do this the easy route, I would have just made an ERC20 token and called it a day and been
raised
done in
some
a month.
money. Hell,
Exactly, and did an ICO and then lived in another country. But no, I mean, we played this by the book. I mean, we had a lawyer that went over everything very, very carefully, what we can and what we cannot do, and things that you could say and not make forward-facing statements, and and then pretty much we were able to do this all self-funded and immediately just launch onto an exchange. And we launched, essentially we launched mainnet the first day of WCC last year. So that's actually the first day that we went live was at WCC, and we had like the beta iOS, which was actually on test flight at the time period, and we had just launched the Android application. So I mean, this was,
you were trying to get me to use test flight, and I was like, I've never even used this before.
Yeah. So that was a nightmare.
To me, and you were like, you're just getting so frustrated with me, I think, and I was like, dude, I don't know what I'm doing.
Well, thankfully, we're no longer on test flight. Apple is kind of strict with some of their crypto-based apps that they allow in the App Store, and I actually think it's starting to get worse. So that's something that we could even talk about as well, is that these I guess I call them gatekeepers, these ecosystems that these gatekeepers maintain, and by gatekeepers I mean like Google and Apple. And some of their, Google isn't necessarily as bad, but Apple sees crypto as a threat to their business model. And when you have these gatekeepers that are running these app stores and these ecosystems, and that in order to get onto and so for instance for iOS, Google, it's a little bit different. You can release a standalone APK. Your application can be installed.
Sure.
On iOS, if you're not on the App Store, you're nothing on iOS. Like, you're screwed.
Dude, correct. I mean, I'm an Apple user, and I mean, even for me to get on the App Store these days is almost a joke, because I have everything I feel like I need. But if you're not on there, you have no chance of making.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's a lost cause, and Apple knows that. They are these gatekeepers, and the reason why they're very hesitant to do anything with crypto is that Apple does a 70-30 split with anyone who has an application on their platform that has to do with payments or money or something like that. So because Apple's not getting their 30%, they're very displeased with this.
I mean, I don't blame them, honestly. Like, if I'm Apple, I'm doing the exact same thing.
It makes sense. You're like, this is going to cannibalize our business. So it makes sense from a business standpoint.
People don't realize this stuff's that easy.
But I would think, I think they're going to start to, first of all, they're going to have to embrace it eventually, because it's Pandora's box, or the genie's out of the bottle. I mean, you can't put it back in. It's a matter of how long you can contain it before, people either abandon your platform, or, they find some sort of alternatives. And actually, these alternatives is actually what's starting to pop up now. And what people are doing to circumvent the App Store and even Google Play is that they're creating PWAs now, which stands for Progressive Web Applications. So basically, these are like, they're supposed to be almost like native applications, but they run fully on the web. So for instance, like if you go to like Business Insider on like Safari on the web browser, it'll say, hey, do you want to install Business Insider icon to your home screen? And it'll actually download an icon to your home screen that's 100% independent from the App Store. And then you can interface, and it's almost kind of like the Business Insider app that they have on the App Store, but it's just running all correct. Yeah. So I think what you're going to start seeing is, and we actually have a PWA that's like ready, like on the back burner, just in case shit hits the fan,
Sure.
And we get axed. We want to have an alternative out there just in case. And I think you're going to start seeing other crypto projects that are going to be doing this as well. So basically, you can have a PWA, and you can run on, on Android, you can run on iOS, you can run on the desktop, and then everything scales, accordingly. And you can still have native notifications and stuff like that going on.
And just because I know you know a lot about this stuff, and not to diverge from our topic here, but with that most, I mean, I'm sure you saw this, and I know you have an iPhone too, if I remember correctly.
Hmm.
You know, they released like this unpatchable jailbreak
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah. I saw that. Yeah, it's
So
for versions like 4 through 10 or something. It's a lot of phones that are affected.
yeah, and so if that is the case, and there is this like unpatchable jailbreak opportunity, clearly that's a problem for Apple. But does that mean that you can now download other types of apps that might not be available traditionally? Or I've
Um,
never had a jailbroken phone, so I'm just
sure.
asking as a naive individual because I've just never had to. It's just never appealed to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've jailbroken my phone in the past. I haven't really done it recently, but yeah, when you jailbreak your phone, so you can run you can run apps from the Apple Store, but then they also have like a third party store called Cydia is one of the more popular ones, and it's almost like a black market app store where you can upload your app, and then it's on the Cydia store, and then people who are jailbroken can go ahead and download and use your app, and they have a lot of apps on like Cydia for jailbroken phones that like Apple
Sure.
wouldn't allow. For instance, they have like
Exactly.
Nintendo emulators and stuff like
Hmm.
that, that Apple would deny, but they're on
Because of
Cydia.
copyright, etc.
Exactly.
Well,
Go
the
ahead.
reason why I asked that. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, so yeah, so that's interesting with those jailbreaks and that those new hacks that have come out. I'm actually curious to, I haven't done jailbreak. I haven't jailbroke a phone in a very long time. I'm curious. I need to read more about that exploit. I'm curious from a physical security standpoint. If I have an older phone that say has crypto on it or a Coinbase account or something like that,
Sure.
and this jailbreak exploit exists, and I plug in my phone, and am I able to jailbreak and exploit another user's physical phone using this exploit and have access to read access to their memory? So that's something I'm kind of curious about and
Absolutely.
need to look into, because that could be kind of concerning.
Well, I was bringing this up for a different reason, but that's absolutely of interest. And so if you figure that out, maybe we can have another conversation about it. But from where I stand, I look at this jailbroke ecosystem that exists, and
Hmm.
if it didn't exist, there wouldn't even be a article about it, right? There's a reason why it's of interest to people, especially to Apple, of course, who's affected by this. But if you take that concept of a jailbroken, ecosystem
Hmm.
that allows your phone to do other things that Apple had set up, parameters and security way or things that don't let you do certain things. And as a layman here, I'm trying to explain this the best I can. But shouldn't we take that reason and that appeal and how do we move those people to the blockchain base? I mean, probably a lot of them are blockchain at least enthusiasts. I'm not going to lie, but
Hmm.
I have never jailbroken my phone. However, I'd be interested in doing it. I mean, just because it sounds cool, right? I can have more access. It may not even affect me very much, but you can download like all the songs and watch
Yeah,
any movie you want, whatever. I
and
heard a lot of
screen
these
mirror
things.
wherever you want a screen mirror too. So it's kind of
Exactly.
like rooting your Android phone. It's like the equivalent. You have super user access, so you're not locked into their walled gardens anymore.
It's almost open source to an extent, and
It's like you
some
actually have full control over the phone that you paid money for. You have full control over this hardware that you paid $900 for. It's a amazing concept.
yes. And now I'm not saying that legally speaking, I'm for that because yes, it does take away a musician's, ability to make money off of something that they're very talented at, or whatever. But I think minus the exploitations that allows, I mean, isn't this kind of what the blockchain is? Right? I mean, like, I just look at this, like, there's got to be a correlation and there's got to be some way to harness the ideology of a jailbroken phone. And is there a way to do it? I mean, obviously, if there is, someone's not going to tell me because they're working on it already. But I mean, what are your thoughts? I mean, is this even relatable?
I mean, it's definitely a very similar ideology about, it's all about having freedom and not having the oversight of these corporations looking over everything that you do. And especially if it's your own product and you purchase it yourself, you should be able to do with it, within legal bounds,
Sure.
what you're able to do. You shouldn't be locked down and restricted from certain things just because, there's a big, corporation that doesn't want you to do it.
No,
I mean,
agree.
if what you're doing is 100% legal, I don't see any issues with it. I feel like they're hampering and providing these locked environments, and they're doing it for the user's protection as
Yeah,
well.
agree.
They don't want every user having root or super user access and then getting screwing up their phone or malware or whatever gets
Exactly.
installed. So
Or
they're
opening
definitely
themselves up to the
exactly.
ability to be hacked constantly, or what I mean, it's similar to what you just said. But yes, I mean, there's some protective parameters that exist in that system that protect you.
Absolutely. But I believe that, for like more advanced and power users, you should be able to unlock and get access to those capabilities if you want to. Lock it down for the, as the default profile for the default user, but give people access to the stuff, if they really want to. If you're a hardware guy, a software engineer, you should be able to tinker with the stuff and mess around with it.
No, agreed. Okay, and so I don't want to harp on that too much. I guess one of the reasons why I bring that up is simply because I mean there's a good and a bad to complete transparency. There's a good and bad to the blockchain. I mean, on a personal level, I don't want to use Bitcoin for every transaction and let everybody know every detail of my
Mm-hmm.
financial situation, right? I mean, that would
Yep.
be a
Oh yeah.
negative.
And then you have all these companies that like chain analysis and that are just that's all they do. They just look at blockchain transactions and try everything to tie everything together. Actually, this is an interesting related story. So I was on blockchain.info the other day. One thing that I kind of sometimes do is I'll go into Bitcoin Talk forum and I start to pull up old chat threads that like Satoshi was in, and like it's actually super cool. I don't know if you've ever done this. You like go into their initial threads, and they're talking about
I
like
have done
how
this.
Bitcoin will work from like a snack vending machine perspective, and all these initial like Jeff Garvis is arguing with Satoshi, and Dan Larimer's on there, and they're all arguing back and forth about what would work and what wouldn't work. And what's interesting is the why I mentioned this is that in Bitcoin Talk forum, and this all goes back to like transparency and tracking. In Bitcoin Talk forum, in your profile, you can specify your Bitcoin address.
Yep.
And one of the things I always thought was really cool is like I'd look at these original guys who were like on the forum from 2010 or 2011. I'd be like, oh, look at this Bitcoin address, and I plug it into blockchain.info. I was like, what was this guy messing with in 2010? Did he have tens of thousands of Bitcoin or something like that? And I went to blockchain.info the other day, and I plugged in one of those addresses, and it literally showed next to the wallet, like the wallet address, it showed the Bitcoin Talk username. So they're
Wow.
already, and then I started clicking on other transactions, and I saw this one guy that was doing like a dust attack to all these different, users on the Bitcoin Talk forum. But it literally listed every single in blockchain.info, very easy to see the wallet address and what specific user from Bitcoin Talk that was associated with.
It's
And
so
I mean,
cool though. It really is.
it's
It's like opening
cool.
up a history book.
It's cool, but then like it kind of makes me like nervous as well. It's like, well, shit,
Sure.
if that's me, I don't want everything that I've ever done tied, and being
Of
and
course.
able
No,
to be
it goes without
seen.
saying.
And that goes into like all these different types of privacy blockchains that are out now, and why I feel like Monero and blockchains like that are really gonna make a difference.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, that it goes without saying, but people don't even want to talk about Monero publicly anymore because of the fear of being attached to that project when the government, because it's only a matter of time till the project is just
Negative
stricken down
connotation, yeah.
exactly by the government. It's a
Hmm.
it's a taboo kind of already because it's expected that we're gonna fight that. But I've even been instructed on a legal basis to stay away from Monero. In a
Really?
conversation, which I mean, not like a you better not do this. They're just saying,
Sure.
hey, Joe, you might want to just consider not affiliating yourself too much with that style of cryptocurrency because you have a really good reputation, and they're going to come down on people and anybody who's like, I mean, look at John McAfee. I mean, what is it that makes John McAfee so polarizing? Is he doesn't give a shit what anybody
Yeah.
thinks
Hmm.
about him, and he's saying things that other people aren't, and some of it is full, some of it is not incredibly irrelevant and maybe even a little bit out there. But a lot of it is, if you can sift through it and figure it out, I mean, there's a lot of really interesting and real life stuff. And this is just my personal opinion. It's not a political statement. It's not a endorsement or I'm just trying to stay away. I
Hmm.
love listening to McAfee and reading his Twitter. It has no, I have no opinion on the man as a person publicly, except for the fact that he's been great and come to CCT and come to Bitcoin Radio and done an interview with me, which I'm just so
Hmm.
thankful for. Regardless of what your opinion is, the guy says things that are of interest to the space.
Yep. Yep.
I mean,
He
he
says what
doubles.
people want to hear.
He does.
What people are thinking, but they're not saying out loud, I guess is a better way to
Exactly
phrase it.
right. Well, and also, he's a voice for a lot of people who who might not feel very heard in a lot of ways. Now, I bring that up because he has been a huge proponent of privacy
Oh
coins, and
yeah. Yeah.
he's given every reason every real and logical reason why you should be careful about
Hmm.
using Bitcoin to pay for anything.
Hmm.
Now, the concept of transparency for the government is super appealing to me. I
Oh
love
yeah,
that idea.
absolutely. Which is surprising that like they have like a negative kind of like a negative connotation and a
Yep.
negative viewpoint of it, when really this gives them so much insight into the transactions that are occurring that they could never ever track from a cash standpoint.
I was thinking about this, and someone asked me, they're like, I mean, Joe, you always ask on your podcast, do people believe in Bitcoin as a political party? Do you ever get like a different answer off of the interview that you would, when they're live and they're actually making a statement about it? And I'm like, no, but one person did ask me what I thought, and I, off the camera, I didn't say this online, but not because I didn't want to, but just because it didn't come up in the context. But I said, it's probably just a matter of which political party is in power and which one wants to get in power on the answer that you're going to get for that, right? And I mean, it's so true. Like, the people just want to get elected. So if one party disagrees with it, they're like, why not? Because
they're just going to play the
you could
they're
do
just
it,
going to play
right?
the opposite side of it.
So I do believe at some point there will be a push just because it'll be a political exploit, right? So I do believe there will be a push for a blockchain-based Bitcoin theoretical, insight into how we're moving money or what's coming in. But like, let's not be short-sighted. Every transaction in the future, whether it be a house deed, whether it be
that's all going to be tracked now. We live in a digital world.
Exactly.
So,
right.
This just allows a more permanent way and trustless way to do it and to ensure that the data is accurate.
For college, I mean, that should be the easiest thing to put on the blockchain, right? I mean,
I've said this for years. I don't know why title insurance for homes isn't on the blockchain yet. That seems like such a useless insurance that you pay someone to manually go through paperwork and records at the county office and verify that you can actually take ownership of this property. That seems like mind-baffling me. Like we're in the 1800s. That this is the process that we're doing to purchase real estate.
That's crazy, right? Well, at least who's fighting that in Washington. What lobbyists are?
Exactly.
The title insurance folks, right? So, anyways, but moving along, I love the side conversations that come out of this, and Adam, I really appreciate your insight too. I think it's really interesting, and we're in a situation right now where, of course, as we wind down or get ready to get to WCC, you're about to get a lot more attention, a lot more exposure, and you guys are gearing up for this. But what's next? And I know that you have a demonstration, and it may not be the perfect time to do everything because we're actually just doing this on a podcast, and we'll have some clips. But I definitely want to do like for me and you to literally go live at some point and just show. I mean, not necessarily for a marketing perspective. This is not a paid or sponsored interview, as I've already noted, but I love what you offer to everybody, the opportunity to be rewarded for your thoughts, your opinions. But think about the power that actually brings. And when people start taking it seriously, the scalability of this isn't just for a Yelp redo, right? I think there's a lot of things that can come off of your platform and use this model. But what does the scalability look like for you right now?
So our main goal right now is to, we've done 100% organic word of mouth marketing. We haven't done any official marketing. We haven't paid, any influencers. We haven't done any of that stuff. In
fact, we had a conversation about that, about how some people are just like, pay me. And you're just like, what are you talking about, dude?
It's unfortunate. There's a lot of pay to play that goes on in this arena. And it's unfortunate, but you can kind of easily decipher who are the true believers and who aren't based upon that. But as far as, what we envision for BravoCoin moving forward, so we're a Yelp-like platform, but we also review a lot of categories that Yelp doesn't include, like movies and video games, and even crypto-centric categories, which I think is very, very important because of some of the shade that's in this industry. We want to know truthful user input on different coins, different exchanges, different dApps, because that directly affects us in the industry. And because there's a lot of cloudiness in this industry, reading these truthful user reviews is very, very, very powerful. But moving forward, our main goal is to focus on the retail sector. We feel, the whole social gamification aspect, the verified reviews, the verified check-ins, rewarding people with crypto for, checking into a restaurant or rewarding their friend when they check in from a referral link. We feel this whole social gamification and user incentive-based model is really how you drive user engagement, you drive customer loyalty, and you drive customer recurring visits. So businesses have the opportunity to basically just claim their profile for free on Bravo. It's easy through like a text message or a phone code that comes into whatever the phone number that's listed for them. And then immediately they have access to a vendor dashboard. They can upload a menu, a real-time menu to our application and kind of have like a DoorDash functionality or Uber Eats functionality. They can do different types of push notifications and marketing to users who have opted into this type of notices. And the best part about all this is that every single upgrade on our platform is done using the Bravo token. So, we want this to be viewed as a utility token and encourage businesses to accept and adopt Bravo, whether they're giving it out on, through the beacon or, whether it's based upon, a verified review or a verified check-in or just their, users who are earning, the rewards from the blockchain itself. by having this mini ecosystem, this mini microeconomy, it encourages the businesses to embrace the platform and utilize it so that they can further improve their sales and get additional reviews and more customers into their store.
All right, well said. And I look forward to this. Since we're both going to be in Vegas, obviously I've already kind of mentioned this to you at some point, but I definitely want to make it clear. Like, I look forward to actually sitting down with you, getting this in my hand from the guy who's building it, essentially, or who's built it, you, and being able to really like dive through this and really be able to explain this, because I need products to be able to explain to people who aren't in crypto. I need real things to be able to show. Joe, what's the big deal about blockchain? I'm not even talking about haters. I'm just talking about people who are interested.
Yeah, that have no clue.
Yeah.
And one of the main problems is that I know this from friends that I talk to, whether they're technologists or they're not technologists. The main thing that they're concerned about is they see the volatility and how much Bitcoin has dropped, and the only thing they see is that it was $20,000 2 years ago, and it went all the way down to 3,000. And for most people, that's scary as shit to them. But for people who have been in this industry and they've seen the cyclical nature of it, they know that this is par for the course. This is what Bitcoin does.
Like, whatever.
But a typical person is not going to put in even $100 of their money if they think it can potentially go down to $15. That's just too risky for the average person. And because they don't understand decentralization, they don't understand how it works, they don't understand why it's so powerful, they're highly unlikely to do something like this, which is why...
Or you're getting the uneducated or very inexperienced investor who now is pissed off because this scam stole...
Exactly. They invest in some ICO, which is down 99.9%, exactly. And they have a penny left of the $100 they put in there.
And I don't blame the traditional investor for being a little bit like,
oh yeah, it makes sense. But that's the reason why we need alternatives such as BravoCoin. So where you don't need to put up any of your own money, you want to dabble in crypto and get into this new economy and this emerging technology, write some reviews and earn some of it. And, people are a lot more likely to use their mind and spend some of their time rather than spend their own money and their own capital. And that's basically, we call what we have proof of brain. So basically, you're proving you have a brain. You're putting out your content there, and then you're getting rewarded for your time and for your effort. And I think especially people who are concerned with the volatility, people who don't have as much capital to invest, this is a good way for them to just dip their toe into the water, get into the ecosystem, trade your Bravo for some Ethereum, trade it for some Bitcoin, start researching about some of these other projects that are going on, and figuring out how this new emerging technology all interfaces and works together.
Well said. And I agree. And Adam, this is definitely to be continued, because there's a lot here, and I definitely, especially on a visual level, I mean, I've got a chance to see the app. Adam, you introduced it to me really early, as I kind of mentioned our test flight experience together. And you stayed on my butt, trying to get me to like just check it out, Joe. And I'm like, man, it's not that I don't
just leave a review, Joe. That's all you have to do.
But it's more like I don't want to admit that I can't figure out this test flight, whatever. Anyways, it's
well, you don't have to worry about that anymore. Now we're actually on the App Store, so there's no issues with that. Yep. We've gone through a number of iterations to make it more user friendly.
You guys have done a great job, by the way. I mean, it was even good when I first saw it, but like it's really seamless now. It's really starting to pick up that not just familiarity, but the ease of use. If something's not familiar,
it needs to be intuitive, and that's what we're working on. Is the intuition, so that naturally where to go in the platform. And
that's not an easy science, man. Like that's something that comes with not just time; it comes with like over and over and over again. People have to complain
and saying this doesn't work and this should be here.
This sucks or whatever. And you got to find out what makes sense and what's just like people just being assholes.
So I mean, we have some really cool things planned. What's actually going to be super cool, which I'm excited for WCC, is not only can we drop Bravo on these beacons for the proof of location, but I've implemented in this newest build the ability to put in your Ethereum wallet address and a Bitcoin wallet address.
Wow.
So basically, you can just go into the app and then say, these are my external wallet sources. And then at WCC, we're going to have ERC20 tokens, NFTs. We can even put Bitcoin on these and then only give it away to people who are within physical proximity and validate and prove our proof of location technology.
Think about this. If you're a coin, like if you're a project that has coins that wants to it's kind of like a real airdrop, like a
absolutely.
It's kind of cool thinking.
And it's truthful. So I'm not going to hate on this, but there's another application, I won't even go by the name, but they use GPS for this technology. And the problem with GPS,
a blockchain project?
It is a blockchain project. It's an actual app. They have you may have to do some of your own research to figure out the name. But anyway,
#BYOR.
they use GPS for this technology, and the problem with GPS is it's easily spoofable. So that's actually a problem within their app, is that people will be on the other side of the country claiming coins because they're spoofing their GPS.
Yeah.
Exactly. Not even through a VPN. You can actually,
Sure.
if you have a rooted Android phone, you could pretty much manually set your GPS coordinates and spoof your location and appear somewhere else. So that's what these users are doing. And that's a huge issue. And, I come from a background where I was always trying to game things and to get some sort of, software-based advantage or technological advantage. So that's one of the things I actually always look at whenever any project either that I'm building or I'm looking into. I'm always curious how to break it or how to manipulate or how to game the system, because that's how you learn how to protect against those types of things.
Sure.
So, that's one of the cool things that we're going to have. So literally, like these other coins, like you're saying, we want to give beacons to some of these other projects at WCC and be like, listen, throw this beacon at your booth. You can load some of your own ERC20 tokens on it. People come to your booth and you get, you have, these tokens automatically go out to your users and that they were actually at your booth. They were interested. Those are, the types of clients and users that you want, not just some random person that's going to claim it halfway across in Asia and then immediately, market sell it to get rid of it.
Absolutely. So obviously, if you're listening now and you're a project or you're doing something or a project that you hope it's going to be at WCC that you would want to include themselves in this, I mean, like this is happening, and I know that BravoCoin is doing a lot with WCC. And obviously, I've had Adam on here, and last week I had David Schwartz from Litecoin Foundation. We had this conversation about what Litecoin is doing during the Litecoin Summit. I'm playing in the Fortnite tournament, as discussed, as you mentioned. And I mean, if you are somebody who would like your project or like some project that you support to be part of this, well, Adam, first off, let's just talk about where can they find you at? Like how can someone get in touch?
You can easily just shoot me an email, adam@bravocoin.com, or you can hop on LinkedIn. You can search my name, Adam Barlam, or just go to the BravoCoin website. Shoot us. There's a contact form on there. You can shoot us an inquiry. We want to work with projects, we want to get exposure out there and prove these use cases like proof of location, and reviews on blockchain, and really craft that narrative and show real life examples and make it, in a fun, engaging atmosphere for people, so that, it encourages engagement, encourages loyalty, encourages, recurring screen time and visits and stuff like that.
Any project bringing new people into the space for honest reasons is one of my favorite projects, and you clearly fall in line with that, Adam. I'm very proud to be able to have you on Bitcoin Radio. I think you're doing a great job for this space, for the cryptoverse in general, and I'm proud to be able to get a chance to know more and have seen your journey as well. Like it hasn't been easy. You've been busting your ass. You've been doing things that other projects simply just weren't, like I guess even willing to do. They're just, either lazy or just elitist. Maybe they raised too much money, so they got lazy, whatever it might be. You've always got, I haven't ever gotten a sniff of laziness about your team or you in general, but overall you're here for the right reasons. And I'm very proud of your work. I think it's wonderful. If you're not following BravoCoin, people go see them, go check them out. I mean, you don't have to love them. They're not asking you to buy a coin.
You don't need to buy anything.
Leave a review.
Just download the app and try it out and go see if you like it.
If you have Yelp and you don't at least check out BravoCoin, I don't know what to tell you, folks.
Yeah.
You're just being ridiculous.
We even give you 10 free Bravo just for downloading it. So, I mean, if you have friends who have never into crypto and you need an easy segue, an easy thing to, kind of explain to blockchain to them or how they can get into the ecosystem, they're nervous about putting in their own money, show them BravoCoin.
Yeah. And I can tell you this right now, this isn't an endorsement of a token or an exchange or buying anything. This is an endorsement of leave a review. And for that reason alone, if you just leave one, Adam's going to be proud of you and he's going to be happy for it. I mean, just support the space.
And you know what we're going to do? So we have a podcast section in there, and I can tell you what's going to be added as soon as we get off is Bitcoin Radio is going to be added. So you can leave reviews on Bitcoin Radio now.
I had a strategy the whole time. I just need to try to get on that review. No, I'm just kidding. Obviously, thank you very much, Adam.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
We'll pick this up, and we'll do it next time in person. I look forward to it.
Yeah, definitely. I would love to have an in-person interview at WCC. We can get together. We'll throw up a beacon in there. We can do a bunch of cool stuff.
We'll do it, man. Anyways, until next time. Hey, look, Bitcoin Radio, we appreciate your audience. We appreciate your involvement. If you have questions or concerns for Adam, you know where to find them. Hey, look, I'm proud to be able to host this podcast, to be part of this, to be part of something. You know how much I appreciate you, everybody. And, look, this is where we say Bitcoin lives, but it lives here, in my opinion. The reason why I say that is not just because it sounds cool. It's because we want to embody the types of projects and the types of people that are presenting the space in a light that allows people from the outside to make it make sense, that allows people from the outside to bridge over here. I want to be that bridge. If there's one compliment that I ever get that I always am so proud to hear is that I've helped somebody explain or be explained to what crypto and blockchain can do for the future, for our children, for your grandchildren, whatever it might be. A transparent future and a protection of your personal privacy is the only future I want. And I don't care what anybody says. The only thing I'm worried about right now is protecting ourselves from the powers that have gotten so big and so bold and so intrusive onto our lives. We got to have a decentralized effort at some point, even on the extreme side of decentralization. The anarchists, they only exist because of the pushback that somebody has to do. And I'm not an anarchist. I believe in government. I just don't like bad government. And I'm not saying any government's particularly bad, but obviously we know something exists. And if I don't think something bad, somebody else is going to. So there's never going to be that true unification based off of the way that humans just exist. Blockchain solves a lot of those issues, so then we can just go about and hate each other for other small reasons that don't matter, right? Obviously, that's a joke. I hope that's not the case. But until next time, Bitcoin Radio, we'll see you soon, only here on WBTC Bitcoin Radio.